Listen to me carefully, because if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or quietly erased by your own family, this story is going to hit deeper than you expect. Not every betrayal comes from enemies. Some come with your last name. Some smile for photos. Some clap while your life is being taken away, piece by piece. And sometimes, justice doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it arrives in a sealed envelope. I didn't plan to destroy my father's empire. I didn't even plan to stand against him. All I ever wanted was to be seen. The ballroom was glowing that night. Gold chandeliers, crystal glasses, applause that rolled like thunder. Cameras flashed, waiters moved like choreography. My sister stood on stage in a white graduation dress. Perfect smile, perfect posture, perfect daughter. My father held the microphone like a king addressing his court. "My brilliant child," he said proudly, voice echoing across the hall. "The future of Whitford Properties." The crowd clapped. Investors, executives, family friends, board members, everyone important. No one looked at me. I stood near the back wall, invitation badge slightly crooked, like I didn't belong to my own last name. Then he said it. Casually, cleanly, publicly. As for my other daughter, Dulcie, she has chosen a different path. She will no longer have any role, responsibility, or inheritance within the company. Applause continued. Because they thought it was a joke, it wasn't. Something inside my chest folded inward, not shattered, folded, like paper burned slowly from the edges. My mother didn't look at me. My sister didn't react. My father didn't hesitate. That was the moment he erased me with a sentence. I don't remember how long I stood there. Sound turned into static, faces blurred, smiles stretched unnaturally wide. My hands felt cold. Then a calm voice beside me said quietly, "Miss Whitford." I turned. A tall, older man in a dark suit, silver hair, still eyes, steady posture. The kind of presence that doesn't raise volume, but commands attention anyway. "I'm Jonathan Ellis, your grandmother's attorney." My breath caught. He held out a sealed envelope, thick paper, red wax stamp. "She instructed me to give this to you on the day your father showed the world who he truly is." My fingers trembled when I took it. "What is this?" I whispered. For just a moment, warmth passed through his expression. "Protection," he said softly. "Timing matters." Then he walked away into the crowd like he had never been there at all. I couldn't breathe in that ballroom anymore. I pushed through the service corridor doors, past steel counters, past kitchen noise, into a narrow fluorescent hallway that smelled like soap and heat and metal. My heartbeat sounded louder than the music. I broke the seal. 3 legal cages, notarized, signed, dated. I read once, then again, slower. My grandmother, Eleanor Whitford, founder of the company, had left 51% controlling shares to me. Not my father, not my sister, me. My throat closed. Tears came without permission. She had seen it. She had known. Line after line, it was all there, written with deliberate clarity. She is not slow. She was abandoned. I will not allow prejudice to continue after my death. My knees nearly gave out. But then came the clause, the condition. To activate the bequest, I had 72 hours to call an emergency board meeting. 72. Not a gift, a trigger. Not comfort, a weapon. My grandmother hadn't just loved me, she had prepared me. And suddenly, the question wasn't, why me? The question was I brave enough to use it?
The envelope was still in my hands when the hallway door swung shut behind me, cutting off the music, the applause, the celebration of my replacement. For years, I thought invisibility was quiet. It isn't. It's loud inside your head. Every memory started replaying, every interrupted sentence, every not now, every comparison, every family dinner where my chair felt optional. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. I wasn't unwanted. I was inconvenient. There's a difference. I pressed the papers against my chest and laughed, once, a broken, disbelieving sound. "Okay, Grandma," I whispered. "I hear you." I stepped outside into the cold night air. The city lights looked sharper, like someone had adjusted the contrast on reality. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Ms. Whitford," Ellis said calmly, "you've read it." "Yes." "Then listen carefully. Don't celebrate. Don't confront. Don't warn anyone. Call the board meeting first thing in the morning." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "They removed me publicly tonight." "I know. That helps us. Helps us. Not helps you. Helps us." For the first time, I wasn't alone in this. 72 hours, he continued. Control is not claimed emotionally. It is claimed procedurally. I closed my eyes. Will they fight it? Yes. Will they win? No. Confidence without arrogance. That was his gift. "Sleep," he said. "Tomorrow you stop being erased." The call ended. I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat on my apartment floor, documents spread out, reading every clause, every legal phrase, every contingency. My grandmother hadn't left anything to chance. There were cross-references, protections, triggers, independent verifications. She knew exactly who my father was, which meant something else too. She knew exactly who I was. At 8:02 a.m., I made the call. "Emergency board session," I told the corporate secretary. "Majority shareholder authority clause." Silence. Then a startled inhale. "Yes, Ms. Whitford." News travels differently in corporate buildings. It doesn't spread, it ignites. By noon, everyone knew something was happening. By 3, everyone was pretending they didn't. At 6, the boardroom doors closed. 12 people. Leather chairs, glass walls, city skyline behind them like a witness stand. My father sat at the far end, controlled, confident, mildly irritated. He thought this was a protest meeting, a tantrum, a procedural nuisance. He didn't know it was a verdict. Miranda sat beside him, posture perfect, confusion behind her eyes. My mother wasn't there. Robert Hartley, interim board chair, nodded to me as I entered. "Ms. Whitford, you requested the floor." My hands were cold, but my spine was straight. I stood. My heart is pounding, but my voice will not. They looked up, surprised already. They expected trembling, apology, hesitation. They got none. "I have one motion." My father pushed back his chair instantly. "Gerald, this is inappropriate." "Sit down, Gerald." Hartley didn't raise his voice, but it cut like steel wire. "Ms. Whitford has the floor." Something shifted in the room right there. Authority recognizes authority. Gerald sat. His face had gone pale, not from fear yet, but from disruption. He hated not controlling the script. I placed the papers on the table. I said, "You all received copies, verified this morning by Ellis and Brooks Legal." Margaret Coleman adjusted her glasses. 2 others leaned forward. One board member actually swore under his breath. My father didn't touch the papers. He knew my grandmother's signature too well. "I am not proposing removal," I continued. That confused them. Miranda's head snapped up. "I am proposing a confidence vote." Now the air tightened. "The board will formally vote whether Gerald Whitford retains its confidence as CEO." Miranda stood. "This is absurd. You're turning governance into revenge theater." I met her eyes calmly. "No, I'm turning it into governance." Pause. "The same process written into the bylaws 40 years ago by Eleanor Whitford." That landed. Legacy outranks ego in rooms like this. I said, "If confidence holds, I will not interfere in operational leadership during my tenure as majority shareholder." My father stared at me now, really stared, recalculating. He expected attack. I offered process. That frightened him more. Robert Hartley studied my face for a long moment, measuring something deeper than words. Is there a second for this motion? Seconded. Margaret didn't hesitate. Not even 1 second. That told everyone everything. Gerald's allies shifted uncomfortably. Then we vote, Hartley said. Hands raised. 4, confidence. 7, no confidence. 1 abstained. He counted twice. Set down his pen. The motion carries. Silence hit like pressure. Per Section 14.3, Mr. Whitford has 30 days to tender resignation. No shouting, no explosion, no drama. Just consequence. My father stood slowly, looked at me, not with rage, not with hatred, recognition. The look a strategist gives another strategist when they realize the board changed and they didn't see it happen. He walked out without a word. And the strange thing was, I didn't feel powerful. I felt finished, like a long illness had finally broken. Some people think victory feels like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like exhaling. 3 weeks after the boardroom vote, my phone rang at exactly 2 p.m. Unknown caller ID. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello? Silence first, then a breath. Small, fragile. Dulce? It's Mom. I hadn't heard her sound uncertain in 20 years. Not once. Can we talk? She asked. Just us. No lawyers, no father, no audience. Just us. I stared at the skyline outside my apartment window, glass towers reflecting afternoon sun like mirrors you couldn't hide from. Where? I asked. A coffee shop in Midtown. Public. Neutral. Smart. Careful. Afraid. I'll come, I said. She was already there when I arrived. Corner table, untouched coffee, both hands wrapped around the cup like it was the only solid thing left in her world. She looked older, not physically, but structurally, like something internal had shifted out of alignment. The careful makeup couldn't hide the exhaustion. Thank you for coming, she said too quickly. What do you want, Mom? No anger, no softness, just direct. To apologize. The word cracked halfway through. For everything. That's a dangerous word. Everything. It either means nothing or it means the truth. For what exactly? I asked quietly. For the way we treated you, the way we spoke to you, the way we didn't speak to you. She swallowed hard. For the years we made you feel small. I held her gaze. Are you apologizing because you're sorry? I asked. Or because your life changed? Flinch. There it was. Honesty fighting pride. Both, she whispered. I hate that it's both, but it is. Tears filled her eyes. Real ones. Not social tears, not performance tears. The kind that come from self-recognition. I was so focused on Miranda's success, she said. On appearances, on what people thought of us. She shook her head slowly. I told myself we were protecting you from expectations you couldn't meet. That was a lie, I said gently. Yes, she nodded. It was. You let him call me worthless, I said. In front of family, in front of business partners. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. I know. You never defended me. I know. Regret sounds different when it's real. It has no defense attached. I can't undo it, she said, but I don't want to lose you completely. I studied her face, this woman who braided my hair as a child and forgot my birthday as an adult. 2 truths, same person. I can't pretend the last 20 years didn't happen, I said slowly. I'm not asking you to. But, I continued, I'm willing to try building something new. Her shoulders collapsed in relief. Not victory, relief. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a door unlocked. 2 months later, August, heat, Central Park, my phone rang again. Miranda. I almost laughed at the timing. I almost didn't answer. "Can we meet?" she asked immediately. "There's something I need to say." We sat near Bethesda Fountain, tourists, violin music, sunlight flashing on water. She looked different, less polished, more human. Dark circles, hair pulled back carelessly, no armor. "I've been in therapy," she said without build-up, 3 times a week since May. "That's good," I said. "It's brutal," she laughed, short, humorless. "Turns out being the golden child isn't a gift, it's a cage with better lighting." I didn't interrupt. "Dad expected perfection," she said. "Every grade, every award, just baseline, never enough." She stared at the water. "And how they treated you, I told myself it was normal, that you were different, that staying quiet protected you." "It didn't," I said. "No," she whispered. "It protected me." That was the most honest sentence she'd ever spoken. "If I defended you, I became the target. Truth isn't an excuse, but it matters." She nodded, tears gathering. "I can't undo it," she said, "but I don't want to lose you completely." We sat in silence, not hostile, not warm, just real. 2 sisters raised in the same house, strangers by design. "I'm not going back to how things were," I said finally. "I know, but I'm not interested in staying enemies either." Hope flickered in her eyes, cautious, fragile. "Maybe we start from scratch." She cried then, openly, not elegantly, not composed. I'd like that. It wasn't the sisterhood I dreamed of at 10 years old, but it might become something true, and truth, I learned, is better than fantasy. November, 6 months after the boardroom. I moved into my own apartment, Brooklyn Heights, pre-war building, 1 bedroom, bridge view, history in the brick. My grandmother once walked that bridge to her first office in 1965. I liked that symmetry. My new role at the company was my own design, Director of Sustainable Development. Green building, ethical construction, long-term value instead of short-term optics. Her kind of leadership. My father called once a month now. Short calls, polite weather talk, surface-safe topics. We both pretended the past was archived. It wasn't healed, but it was no longer bleeding. My mother and I had lunch every other week. Awkward, honest, improving. Miranda and I met for coffee sometimes, learning each other like adults, not roles. We didn't rewrite history, we wrote new pages. On my apartment wall, my grandmother's portrait. Same one that watched the boardroom for 40 years. Sometimes when sunset light hit it, it felt like approval. The boardroom door hadn't even finished closing when the noise started behind it. Whispers, chairs scraping, phones unlocking, messages firing across Manhattan like sparks. But the hallway outside? Silent. Corporate buildings have a strange kind of silence, the kind that feels expensive. My footsteps echoed on the marble floor as I walked toward the private corridor, the one executives use when they don't want witnesses. I almost made it to the elevator. "Dulce?" My father's voice. Sharp, contained, dangerous. I turned. Gerald Whitford stood 10 feet away, jaw tight, eyes burning, tie already loosened like he'd aged 5 years in 5 minutes. My mother stood beside him, mascara slightly smeared, hands clenched around her purse strap. Someone had called her during the vote. Of course they had. He stepped closer. "You ungrateful, scheming child." Each word clipped like glass. My pulse jumped, but my posture didn't move. "I told the truth," I said quietly. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. The truth? You think truth wins boardrooms. Power wins boardrooms. I held his gaze. Exactly. That stopped him. Just half a second, but I saw it. My mother touched his arm. Not here, please, not here. She humiliated me, he snapped, in front of my board. Not your board, I said gently. The company's board. His eyes flashed. That lawyer manipulated my mother. No, I answered. Your mother wrote that will 5 months after you tried to strip her signing authority. Silence. Truth doesn't need volume. It has weight. You lost, I said, because she saw you clearly. My mother stepped forward now, voice shaking. Sweetheart, you have to understand, we were trying to protect you. There it was, the sentence I'd heard in 1,000 forms my whole life. I felt something inside me finally align. You didn't protect me, I said. You erased me. The words didn't come out loud. They came out final. Every Christmas dinner, every introduction, every conversation about the children where I disappeared mid-sentence. Tears filled her eyes instantly. That's not fair. You're right, I nodded. It wasn't. My father grabbed my wrist, not hard, but controlling. This isn't over. We will contest that will. I pulled my arm free. You'll lose, I said, and you already know it. Confidence is louder than anger. I turned and pressed the elevator button. Behind me, Dulce, wait. My mother's voice broke. For 28 years, I waited when she said that. I didn't wait now. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside, and for the first time in my life, I didn't ask permission to leave. The doors closed on their faces. Reflection in brushed steel, my own, pale, eyes bright, breathing uneven. The adrenaline drained out of my muscles all at once, like a battery removed. I thought I would feel triumph. I didn't. I felt grief. Not for what I lost today, for what I never had. Hope. The hope that if I stayed quiet enough, good enough, useful enough, they would someday see me. That hope died between floors 38 and 22. And strangely, I was lighter without it. When the doors opened in the lobby, Jonathan Ellis was waiting near security, coat folded over his arm, expression measured. Well, he said softly, that was remarkable. It was necessary. Your grandmother, he said, would have approved the method, not the outcome. The method. That mattered more. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said, walking beside me toward the revolving doors, you let the machinery work. I don't want to be CEO. I know. I don't want his job. I know that too. Outside, Manhattan's sunlight hit like a spotlight. Traffic noise, sirens, steam rising from street vents. The world completely unaware that an empire had just changed hands upstairs. I just want the company she built to be run by people who actually care about it. Ellis nodded once. The board will want transition meetings. Not today. Good answer. I stopped on the sidewalk and looked up. Whitford Tower, 42 stories of glass and steel, carrying my family name like a banner and a burden. Today, I said quietly, I just want to be myself. He smiled slightly. Dangerous concept. Tomorrow, I said, I start building something new. May 19th, 4 p.m. Gerald Whitford signed his resignation letter. I wasn't there. I learned from an email. Subject line, formal notice, CEO resignation. I read it 3 times. Old habit, checking for traps, clauses, reversals. None. Interim CEO appointed, board advisory role offered to me. No hidden strings. Ellis confirmed it in 2 words. Clean offer. That evening, a company-wide email went out. Phones started buzzing across the city. People who worked with me for 2 years, people who never learned my name, suddenly wanted coffee. Reconnection. Congratulations. Access. I ignored almost all of them, except one. Patricia Morales, executive assistant, hired in 1987, my grandmother's right hand. Her message was short. Eleanor talked about you often. She said you see what others miss. Today, I understood. She would be proud. I saved that one. Some validation doesn't come from parents. Sometimes that's better. A week later, it hit the press. Corporate shakeup, hidden heir, leadership removal. My name wasn't printed, privacy law, but in Manhattan real estate circles, everyone knew. My parents canceled their gala appearance. Health reasons, the publicist said. 3 major investment partners requested meetings with me personally. Not the board, not the interim CEO, me. 2 of them said the same sentence in different words. Your grandmother built something rare. We're glad her vision is protected. I didn't celebrate my father's social collapse, but I didn't mourn it either. Mercy isn't pretending nothing happened. Mercy is choosing not to become the same kind of person. 6 months earlier, I was invisible. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, functionally invisible. The kind of invisible where people talk around you, decide around you, celebrate around you, and forget you're even in the room. Now, I wasn't fighting to be seen, I was choosing who deserved to see me. That is a different kind of power, and it took me 28 years to understand it. People kept asking the wrong question after the story went public. How does it feel to win? Win. Like it was a competition. Like this was a trophy. Like this was revenge. But here's the truth nobody sees behind headlines and board votes and inheritance documents. When you finally stop begging for love, it doesn't feel like victory, it feels like grief. Because hope dies first. I didn't defeat my father, I buried a dream. The dream that one day he would look at me and say, I was wrong about you. He never did. And I learned something most people learn too late. Closure is not something others give you. Closure is something you build yourself, brick by brick, boundary by boundary. My grandmother didn't leave me 51% of the company because I was smarter than Miranda. She didn't leave it to me because I was more qualified. She left it to me because she understood something my parents never did. Power reveals character. It doesn't create it. My father used power to measure people. My grandmother used power to protect people. There's a difference, and companies live or die by it. She once told me, kindness is not weakness in leadership. It is structural strength. I didn't understand it at 12. I live by it now. Let me tell you something honestly. No drama, no inspiration talk, just truth. Dyslexia didn't make me slower. It made me different. I learned to see systems instead of sentences, patterns instead of paragraphs, structures instead of stories. While everyone else read words, I mapped meaning. What they called weakness became strategy. What they mocked became advantage. And if you are the person who is labeled not enough, listen carefully. Different is not broken. Different is often mismeasured. The first board strategy meeting I led was quiet. Not dramatic, no applause, just data, maps, models, projections, long-term sustainability frameworks. When it ended, Robert Hartley stayed behind. He closed the door. Your grandmother, he said, used to run meetings exactly like that. I smiled, not because I replaced her, but because I honored her. Legacy is not ownership. Legacy is alignment. One evening, late, alone, city lights flickering through my apartment window, I opened the wooden box she gave me years ago. Yes, the one I never opened. Inside, a single folded paper. Her handwriting, shaky, deliberate, unmistakable. It said, "You will be underestimated. Let them. It is the safest place to build your strength." I cried harder than I did in the boardroom because she knew. She saw it all coming, and she trusted me before I trusted myself. That is love. Not praise, not protection, trust. If you are listening to this right now and something in this story sounds familiar, the overlooked child, the underestimated employee, the dismissed voice, the quiet one at the table, I want you to hear this clearly. You do not need their permission to become who you are. You do not need their recognition to validate your worth. You do not need their approval to build your future. Approval is rented. Self-respect is owned. Stop chasing rented validation. Build owned value. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. You decide who enters. You decide who stays. You decide who lost access. I didn't heal by hurting them back. I healed by choosing myself forward. That is the inheritance that mattered. Not the shares, not the title, not the building with our name on it. The inheritance was this: I no longer confuse love with permission, and no one can take that from me. If this story stayed with you, if it hit somewhere personal, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, quietly dismissed, the quiet one at the table, I want you to hear this clearly. You do not need their permission to become who you are. You do not need their recognition to validate your worth. You do not need their approval to build your future. Approval is rented. Self-respect is owned. Stop chasing rented validation. Build owned value. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. You decide who enters. You decide who stays. You decide who lost access. I didn't heal by hurting them back. I healed by choosing myself forward. That is the inheritance that mattered. Not the shares, not the title, not the building with our name on it. The inheritance was this: I no longer confuse love with permission, and no one can take that from me. If this story stayed with you, if it hit somewhere personal, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, quietly dismissed, stay. There are more stories like this. Stories of people who weren't chosen and chose themselves anyway. Until next time, stand steady, choose truth, build your own measure of worth, and don't wait 28 years to believe it.